Hello, and thanks for joining the session. Today we're still working on that podcast, and so far we've managed to get pretty far into this rewrite. Started to trim out some of the more fine-grained details here on the things that we've done. We are getting the export from the original site, so we have that all visible. So if we go ahead and take a look here, so we have like episode 53, and we have up through episode 53 locally as well. The main navigation site, the homepage listing, that is more or less exactly where it was, minus the header and this newsletter subscription thing. So we have the same data being displayed, which is kind of what our goal was at this point. We also did some new things, at least for me, using Twig macros for duration and file size. And we weren't really able to do much with those yet that makes sense for them to be macros, but we are going to be using these on the individual pages as well. So probably in this session, we'll actually start seeing how those macros actually start to make sense. We looked around at how to use SVGs a little bit better in Twig. We looked at the SVG bundle, and we used simple icons, which was a project that has a whole bunch of icons that you can use easily from SVG. I thought we were going to be able to bring these in using JavaScript or something along those lines, but it didn't actually work out that way because we didn't really need to. So we're just using these directly. We had to make one minor change. Let's go ahead and look at where that was. So go back into base. We are still including simple icons as a dependency installed with Yarn. And then we're just specifying the path to where it is on disk. If we were doing something within JavaScript, the way that we were going to do that is require them this way. And that would have made them available as compiled assets that would be a part of our package. But we didn't need those. We didn't need it to be done like that just yet. So we kind of took that out. Let's see what else. Simple icons. So the next few things that we're going to do is I want to add placeholders for the About page and the newsletter page. So right now we have them in the header, but we aren't actually linking them to anything. So I want to actually link those to something useful. It probably won't take too long. Then I want to start working on the individual episode page. If we look at the individual episode page right now, it only shows the title. So I want to get it pretty much up to par with what is displayed on the live site. Some of this is going to be somewhat easy to do. Some of it might be a little more difficult. And then if we have more time, I'd like to start working on the background images. So the way that the background images currently work is that every episode has an image, and then it's displayed behind in the header. So if we go to this one, there's another background image. So I want to make sure that those are there, and at the same time, we'll be able to get back to putting our main background image on our homepage as well, which is another thing that's missing. So the first thing, though, we're going to try to get newsletter and about pages. And the way that we're going to do that is to use some static pages. And I don't think we did static pages in this series yet. So we're going to go to routes. Oh, we do. We actually have them already. They're just not linked. So let's go ahead and see if those pages actually look like anything right now. So with about, cool, and newsletter. So we can actually link to these now, which we hadn't done before. So let's at least get those linked. Let's go back to base and newsletter. All right, so we can actually make this be an href. And I think they're just newsletter, yeah, and about. So this is one of the nice things about the Symfony IDE is it does a lot more than it used to, or the Symfony plugin for PHP Storm. It's actually aware of the routes, so I can actually just start typing and do tab completion on this, which is actually pretty nice compared to what it used to be a couple of years ago. So I should now be able to click between these and get to where we're supposed to go. And just real quick, I'm going to start wrapping these in something useful. So let's go to the home page. We want container. I think that might be all we have to do. Let's go to newsletter. Well, just for now, all I really want to do is wrap these so they look nice. Newsletter and then about. There we go. Other episodes about. Okay, cool. I think maybe we want to do. Are we doing any? We aren't doing any Y padding. Let's see what we had before. I think I'm just going to copy this code outright. But I think I am going to add some padding here. PY, let's do 16 because big padding is fun. All right, and gives us a little bit of breathing room there, at least for now. And I think I want to make this logo a little bit smaller, which is pretty minor at this point, but I think it does make sense to try and keep this where we want it. So let's go no underline. Let's maybe not go above 16 ever. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Again, the original design, the logo was way on the left, but that's because we had a really narrow column. And I don't really see a reason to keep that narrow column. So we have a really wide column, which means that figuring out a size for this to float over here, sometimes I don't know if it's going to be worth it. So we might try that again later, but for right now, we're just going to leave it as it is. All right, so we have newsletter and we have about. I think I'm going to call those good because that's all I really wanted to do, is to make sure that those were there. Now we can start working on the individual page. The individual page, we're just going to be working on probably the header and then the content. So if we look at, say, episode 53, let's look at one with a subtitle. So we'll work on episode 52. All right, so all we have right now is this. All right, so I'm going to look in the source code of our original version here. Geocode. All right, so yeah, so here we have a background image, div, header, div. So we have the whole thing originally in a section, which I think is probably going to be what we want to do. So we'll copy that, and then we have the jQuery player bit. So I'm just going to copy this wholesale into our new template. And so we're in episode, there we go. So container. This actually lives outside of container. So the container is going to be pretty much this stuff here. The background here and all of this needs to be outside of a container. So I might actually look at the original twig template here. That might be a better way to do this. So if I look at the episode template, I did have the hero in its own section separate from, let's see, content wrapper. Some of the stuff that I had to do to work with Sculpin was a little complicated, so I don't want to have to reproduce that. So I think what I'm going to do, though, is copy this notion of a hero. So in block. And then let's look at the default layout. Oh no, let's look at the base layout. Is hero. All right, so it had a wrapper. Include image credit. All right. So I don't want this in body. I do want body content, but not like this. Let's see, so now we have duration. So duration is something that, again, that's going to be handled a little bit differently. I'm trying to see if the jQuery player... Okay. I don't think I can render this as is, so I'm going to do page dot with episode dot. It's going to be some of these things that won't work, so I'm going to do URL. I'm going to hide this bit because I don't need that for right now. So that doesn't make sense. So episode number, title, subtitle. I could wrap this in an if. Defined episode. All right. Twitter share button, data URL. This is going to be site.url. So these are all going to be I need to find how to get the canonical URL twig self URL. That looks like a weird way to do it. So what I'm looking for about solution not including parameters. I guess let's try it and see. All right, so Twitter is there. Google +1 out. I'm not doing that anymore. All right, controls, episode duration, and spaceless. So for here, I'm actually going to go copy the controls from our listing. So here we have controls. This part actually probably could be its own template. So here we're doing helpers, so I need to make sure and include helpers. All right. See what it, did we do date somewhere on here? Oh, I think we showed date somewhere else. Yeah, so we didn't have date up here. We had the date down at the bottom. All right, so let's see what happens if we reload. All right, name of value episode. If defined episode. I think it might be is defined. There we go. All right, so still not showing what I would hope it would. Episode.title. Why is title the only thing that's there? Twitter share button. I guess maybe those make sense. Oh, we're not actually showing hero anywhere. Where's body? All right, let's do. There we go. Media player error. All right, so this is only because we don't have the JavaScript enabled for that. So that I'm going to be fine with that. So let's go back here and say this is going to be a container. Cool. But we do need a little bit of padding, I think. Episodes, or maybe not. Now it looks like we have the same amount everywhere, so I'll be fine with that. All right, so we're showing this information correctly. Why we want this to be in a container as well. Why is that? Ah, okay. Relative audio player, okay. Let's wrap this one more. Okay, and then let's get rid of this is an episode, so we need here. Let's get rid of this bit. So let's do episode.date. How are we doing? Publish date. Let's do this same exact thing. All right, October 3rd, 2018. Awesome. So we have all of the bits and pieces that are easily there. Let's do now some of the HTML chunks. Let's see what the oldest one we had. I think it was this one. We had notes and a transcript. So let's switch now to episode 50. Okay. So we have a container. Let's do py16. Okay. If dot content HTML, and then we want to display that. We'll do episode.html, and we need it to be raw because this is right now rendered HTML. There we go. This is where we're going to want to do some more interesting things with some CSS eventually. I don't think I'm going to worry about it right now, but this is where I think we'll actually go in and create actual CSS rules for these things, because going in on an individual paragraph by paragraph basis really isn't going to be an option. So if we go in here, like to this particular paragraph, and say, let's see, py8. We can't really do that. So we'll have to come back to that another time and actually figure out how to do that. So for now, we're going to have styles here, but they might not necessarily be exactly what we want. So I'm going to start creating some additional things here. Let's do if so dot transcript HTML. It's like Joe joined the Discord chat. Thanks for joining, Joe. So if transcript is defined, then display it. But we're going to want to do h2 transcript. And we'll do raw here as well. So if this works right, what we should say is, or what we should see is the transcript. Okay. And the transcript's going to require a bunch of stuff also. Because this has embedded HTML. If we look at this, it's really not very pretty. So it's P-class transcript, so we're already doing some of that. Actually, you know what? Let's see if we can fix this right away. I wonder if I did this inline. Every once in a while I get super lazy. Yes. All right, so this was actually adding this inline here. So let's just, for now, copy this into our CSS file. There we go. Speaker, font weight bold. This really, I should do something better with this, but I think I'll leave it for now. Transcript speaker. I need to be watching. Otherwise, it's not going to actually put things where I think it will. And it still didn't. Ah, there we go. All right, so proper refresh did it. All right, so we have this stuff showing up, and we had one more set of content, but I don't remember what it was. I want to see if our import worked with some of these others. Let's see. It still says transcript. So transcript is defined and not empty. There we go. Foo is not empty. There we go. So now it's hiding transcript with the value is empty, whatever empty happens to be in this case. And here it's not empty, so cool. And then geocode. All right. So here we have transcript, and that one's fine. This is a little weird though. Update. This should be block. That'll fix that. There we go. And actually, we probably should have p bottom 8. There we go. Okay. I really thought there was another string value. Convert to hours. No. Content, iTunes summary. Okay, well, we don't need that here. So I think we have everything copied across now. So we have all of the information. So now we can try working on this background image. I'm probably going to do some cheating here to get these background values. So I'm going to use transparenttextures.com to try and find something to use for the texture. And the idea is that I don't just want the background to be there. I want there to be some sort of texture on top of it. And if we look at what I've done on my personal site, I've done that on all of these pages, really. And I kind of like this pixely looking one, so I might use that. I'm kind of a big fan of that look. Let's see where else we have. Here's a different pixely looking one on the background. And the idea is anytime you place text over top of an image, sometimes it helps to put some sort of pattern on the background. I called it the screen effect, but anytime I look for background screens, it doesn't really seem to bring up the right thing. So anyway, the subtle textures, I don't know if it's related to them necessarily, but the background, let's see, subtle patterns, that's it. So subtle patterns is something that I have used in the past for trying to get interesting background images, but then a similar site that I found for finding transparent textures, it looks almost identical, but I can't find subtle patterns. I wonder if, oh, here we go. I guess it's been bought or acquired somehow by TopTel, which is interesting. But this was a site that I'd used before for this kind of background, and this just has the same sort of feel. So what you can do is pick a color, so you can see what the texture is going to do based on the different colors in the background. And then you can actually also set the background, and it'll do this with the CSS. It's not really it's not really the way I think we should do it, though. So I'm going to download 3-tile PNG, and then let's put that. So this is what it actually is going to look like. I think that ended up in downloads. So let's go 3px tile. All right, less images. All right, and then this will be in all right, so do those get built? So this actually is going to be PNG2. What is it? Base 64. All right, so drag and drop an image. I think this is the way I'm going to use it. So the idea here is that rather than being stored on disk, we're going to just include it in the CSS directly. So code, that podcast. So I don't really need it anymore after this. All right, show code. All right. So the reason that we're going to do this is when we create these backgrounds, it's done in a way that we need to, let's see if I can find it. Here we go. So we're going to have a background image, and we're going to specify 3 versions. So we're going to specify first the background image, the pattern, and then we're going to do a linear gradient, and then we're going to do the actual image that's related to the episode. So let's copy this into episode. And because because these are going to be dynamic, I'm not going to put this bit of style in the style sheet itself, because we need to be able to specify these on demand. So I'm going to remove the pattern that was there previously, which it may actually be the same pattern, but let's pretend it's not. So copy to clipboard, paste it. I'm going to leave the linear gradient there now, just for now, and then I'm going to use the URL to episode.backgroundimage URL. And if I reload this, it probably won't work, because it's not going to be showing us exactly what we need just yet. So see, do I have the style? I think I probably want to put it higher so I can find it more easily. It should actually be up here anyway. So inside section, and let's do hero.episode. Because that's the section, and I think that's actually where we want it to be. The other bits that we wanted to do for this, actually it's over here. So we want to do some other things to the background. So let's do background size. I'm going to put these on different lines. All right, so what we're setting is the values for each of these against each of the background images. So this auto applies to the screen, 50% applies to the screen, and the text shadow, this first text shadow, actually that's unrelated, but I'm going to take it off for now, and then we'll put it back on. So we can see what that does. Okay, cool. So right away I'm seeing a problem, at least sort of a problem, because I was hoping that the navigation and everything would be in here as well. So let's go. We're going to have to create a way for us to target the actual nav and everything. So we have body, we have nav, and then we have hero, and let's say div, actually let's do ID. Hero and nav. Because this is where we want all of this stuff to apply. And so hero, there we go. Now we're getting something closer to what I was kind of expecting here. So let's go back now to another episode. The one where someone got away from us. Okay. It's possible that the background here is too intense. Actually, I don't know why I can see it so well. I'm not used to seeing it. So I'm going to try and take the linear gradient down a bit. So let's do maybe 25 to 125. There we go. I see. Do I see that same behavior anywhere else? I guess I do here. I'm not sure how I feel about that, actually. Might try a different texture to see if it makes a difference. Sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it might not. So let's see here. I kind of like this one. Download, so Billie Holiday. Let's try. All right. Show code. All right, so let's go back to this bit here and let's comment this out. I don't know if that's going to be enough is the problem. So let's see what happens if we go back here. That might work. It has a different feel than what we had originally, but I think I'm just going to have to be fine with that. All right, so let's try to do the same thing now for the home page. So we're going to use the same bit of code. And what we can do is use this in our app CSS. The only thing we won't do is the background image. So that's going to be the thing that is going to have to be there for each individual page. So for the episodes, it's going to be just this now. And if we go to the home page, we're going to define the same sort of thing. So we have a body already. So now we're going to create block hero and block. And we need to add this style. And rather than using this, we need to use the background that we had from the other one. So let's see, what's the main background image that we had? Open mic. Let's see here. .io. And then we have open. The stuff that I did the first time was way more complicated. Red mic. All right, so red mic, we're going to copy that to let's copy it. Let's do this. I'd sort of been doing this thing where I was naming the directories after the file types, but I don't really think that's probably good. So I'm just going to do images. So we have red mic. What we're going to want to do now is include this in app.js. So we're going to require assets, images. Let's see what that does. Failed. Dependency was not found. Assets, images. I wonder if I need to do /. Because I know I could do that here. // CSS. There we go. So by doing that, we end up with, hopefully, in our manifest, this file. So we can now ask for the asset path for this. So now if we go to home, rather than using the URL path here, what we can do is path asset. I think that's what we do. And I'm going to view source. No, in the print statement. This URL. I copied the wrong thing. Okay, so let's copy that. We actually need that there. I did the wrong one, my bad. We place it here. Unexpected. Cool. Generate a URL for the named route. That's bizarre. Able to generate a URL for the named route. I don't need to wrap that in path. I think that's the problem. Cool. All right, so now we have that podcast thing on the top. Here's a case where maybe we can drop this a bit so we can see it more. Okay, cool. So we have the right header, it's just not spaced correctly. We have the screen in place that's different than the original. I actually maybe don't want to do anything at all here. Let's do... Let's find out what our original screen was, because maybe we just want to use that. Although I'm wondering if there's anything at all on top of this one. Let's see. Screen. It does have a text shadow. I think we just used a background color of 0.5. We could try, that's more or less what this would be. It's just that it's adding the pattern on top of there, so. I wonder if there's a way. Wonder if there's a way to create a single pixel. Here we go. Color, or if we need a 1x1 transparent pixel. Okay. Actually, I don't want a color. Opacity 0. What? Well, that was not nearly as cool as I thought it was going to be. Let's see here. Transparent pixel. 1x1 picker. Opacity 0. Width 1, height 1, RGB. All right. So what I can do is copy this now. And this is going to be the same thing without any background, which looks pretty close to what we had before. Was this one different? It's possible the screen was different. No, it's not. All we were doing was laying that over top. Maybe that would be better. I'll try one more of these and then maybe we'll be done with this business. Green paper. What I really need is a little tool that would let me see what all of these look like. Excellence. Let's try this one. All right. I'll change things up a bit here. Let's see, what was it called? Excellence.png. Yeah, I'm not convinced this is actually making things better or easier to read. I feel like at one point this worked really well for that purpose, but I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Let's try this one. Now I'm getting a little smarter about doing this for testing purposes. That's not too bad, actually. Let's try this one. No. I don't like the ones that are off color. This one looks like it might be super. Oops. Let's try one more. Actually, I wonder if I've been assuming that I should get ones that are more subtle, but I'm not sure that's actually the case. Because if I'm more interested... I should try one of these carbon fiber big. I just kind of want to get an idea of what this looks like. See, there's carbon fiber big. Let's guess if this works. I might like that. Interesting. Yeah, Or we just do what we were doing before. Where was the I think this was the transparent one. And we don't do a screen. So we did 2.5 to 1.25. All right, so that's not dark enough, I don't think. So all right, I think that might work. Let's do. I think we'll be good with that. And then real quick, we have about 2 minutes left, but I'm going to see if I can get more of this going in here. Let's go ahead and go to base. Let's see, we got hero and nav. All right. So it's, would have thought that would have worked. Hero and nav, background size, apply. Font white? I thought it was text white. It is text white. No underline. Well, there we go. All right, and actually let's do all text white. And there we go. All right, so now we have everything up here more or less looking like what we would have wanted. Some of this stuff still needs to be styled. Ooh, we don't want that SVG, so we want, All right, so that was hackier than I wanted it to be, but I think I'll just have to allow it. All right, cool. Cool. All right, so we have most of this stuff up and running then. Still have a bunch of stuff to do up here. Let's go ahead and maybe do the homepage while we're at it, that podcast. So this is just an H1. Yeah, so let's do header. Let's just do this. We'll do PT. Cool. All right, and then the last thing, I promise, is this text shadow bit. So the text shadow is going to help the text pop just a little bit more. So right now, it's just right on whatever the background color is, and with the shadow, just adds a tiny bit of extra goodness to it. So let's go to this one. So if we take it back off, it really is quite subtle there. And if we put it back on, it just makes it just a little bit more readable. Okay, cool. So I'm going to call this one good for now. Actually, I'm going to do this same bit here on episode container. What's in here? Here we go. There. Now things are really starting to come along a little better. So it's actually starting to look kind of like what we had before, with a bunch of the style pieces. It actually renders better in some ways than the original. So there's still a bunch of things that need to be done on it, but it's definitely getting there. Let's see. There we go. So it looks like there is one section that I think I put a container that I should have put it in more. Yeah, let's put it here. So the background color. Now let's put the player itself in the container. There we go. So I think that's probably closer to what we were using before. Cool. All right. So the things we accomplished so far, we did the individual episode page, did the background images, RSS, background images. We should do the player at some point. So maybe that's what we can do next, because then we can actually say we're finished with the main bits here. And then we need to work on the RSS feed. The Twitter player is something we need to do. And then we need to add the security so that not just anybody can go to /admin. So right now, it's not really locked in any way. So we don't really want that to happen. All right. Well, thanks for joining the session. Looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow.